Okay.
Do I need to tilt this? Like maybe something like that.
Nice. That's an important addition. I hope John's got some Japanese red wine as well.
I have nothing. I ate seaweed this morning, so I'm making do with the local cuisine.
Right. Seaweed. I think seaweed gives a little bit of longevity as well, from what I
had some
hear.
Seaweed in my toothpaste this morning.
No, I don't know if I could eat that every day. I might pitch myself in front of a train. I don't know about that. But here, let's do this.
All right.
If it's all the same to you guys.
Let's get it on.
Sure.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So I spent a little while this afternoon watching James's video series. It was a 5-part series, Why I Became an Atheist. I also watched various videos by you, John. And rather than myself trying to introduce you by saying what I think your basic philosophical worldviews are, I thought we could just get started by each of you taking, a few minutes to sort of say where you come from in terms of the context being the atheist, theist, really debate. I think even debate is too generous of a term to describe what goes on YouTube for the most part. But the context being what goes on YouTube between atheists and theists. Let's start with you, Jonathan. Like, how do you orient yourself towards the discussions that you've seen go on YouTube, and maybe more generally speaking, what is it that makes you call yourself a theist, though I would say you're a non-denominational theist, in that you're not a Christian, you're not a Muslim, you're not a Jew, you're just theist. So why don't you fill us in a little bit about how that works.
All right. Well, your first question was, what do I think about the stuff happening on YouTube? I'm pretty disappointed with that. That's actually why I try to make videos when I do. I tend to be more a fan of the atheist videos that are made than the theist videos. I think real often they are Christian oriented. It's like there's this gap that most theists don't get. There's the idea of God, and then there's the idea of religion, and then the God in that religion. And a lot of Christian apologists seem to like to start with the notion of God in sort of a secretly hoping to segue quickly into a discussion about the validity of the Bible, instead of just leaving it on the discussion of God. Because I think what they would see is the nature of God is not as the Bible describes. And so to describe my own sense of theism, it's non-denominational. It understands God as a creator God, and it doesn't get much more romantic than that.
Did you want to do the same, James? I mean, we want you. Oh, sorry, Jonathan. Go ahead.
Yeah. No.
You have a pause, and I was like, James.
Yeah. So it's a good point to go over to James and
your perspective. Give us some context that we can use as Play-Doh for the rest of this conceptual molding. This whatever this is, whether it's a debate, dialogue, or conversation.
It's a conversation. Let's just be honest about it. It's a conversation.
Yeah, but could you do the same?
It is a conversation. My perspective is, I mean, where I'm coming from, I spent the better part of my life as a fundamentalist Christian, which means that my idea of God and religion might be a little skewed, at least perhaps from Jonathan's angle. It wasn't until well after college that I even started to really look into the things that I believe a little bit more. And found YouTube and found the writings of New Atheism, and was left a little disappointed by some of the writings, Dawkins and Hitchens. It's a good starting point, but not really all that great. But found YouTube and found some really great YouTubers early on, and for the longest time sat on the sidelines thinking I'd really like to get in on this. and then finally just up and doing it. And the reason that I finally got into it is I think that with my background such that it is, I thought that I might have a bit of a unique insight, and more so than that was going through this whole process of realizing that I no longer believed so many of the things that I spent most of my life believing was a really sort of tumultuous time of transition, and I thought that to sort of discuss that with other people and to expose my experiences with that with other people would be hopefully good for everybody in some regard. But I'm very much into the conversation. I've done a few of the just making fun of people here and there, but for the most part, I prefer just to talk to people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's, if I could just offer my perspective on the atheist-theist sort of collision that occurs on YouTube, I don't think anyone benefits from it. I think people leave most of those discussions being more fervently attached to the same ideas that they began the discussions with.
They might intensify, actually, their fundamentalism or their fragmentation or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I think what you said is completely accurate, Jonathan. The atheists are more interesting to watch. If we're going to generalize here, now why is that? Because a lot of them come from this. It's a seemingly, what is it? A rational.
It's a very rational,
very
scientifically.
That has this.
We've just lost some video here. Let's see if that comes back.
But it's why people like Bill Maher are successful. It's why, I mean, well, Colbert's a chameleon, so he's a different story. But I think Bill Maher's a classic example of it.
Well, maybe we could go back to
even though he's
Jonathan.
Not an atheist, he's agnostic. Sorry.
Right. We could go back to Jonathan, and maybe you could give us your opinion as to why it is exactly that atheism, or the atheists, the intellectuals who are atheists, they seem more worth watching, more intelligent than most of the theists, the denominational theists. What is it that the atheists are adding that the typical theists are missing, that you think?
I think to be an atheist is a humble position to take, and compared at least to a position in which you place yourself as sort of the agent to whether or not you go and burn in hell for eternity. When I talk with Christians, they assume this sort of it's a really obnoxious kind of personality that they want to seem as though they are caring and compassionate, but it really is like I'm here to save you kind of an attitude. And that really that puts me off, and I'm sure it puts off a lot of atheists as well. To say, I mean, and some atheists aren't like this, but most people that I've met, and I think James would agree as well, is that the atheist perspective is one of uncertainty and admitting that you don't know. And I think that's kind of like the scientific staple, and that's very cool. That's very cool. Instead of coming to you and saying that this book, amongst the many other books in the world, this is the right one. I know it's the right one. Just trust me on this, and it will lead to your eternal salvation or damnation.
Yeah.
If depending on how the conversation goes. So that's probably it.
Right.
Atheists also have a better appreciation for reason, at least insofar as science allows. But yeah, that also is good.
As far as you're concerned, James, is Jonathan, or maybe like what Matt might be doing, are they a new type of hybrid theist that you don't know how to deal with yet? I mean, how do you approach this very ambiguous, cloudy, hazy type of entity that's emerging on the internet?
Hopefully it's not that cloudy. We can disperse the clouds in this conversation, hopefully.
I'm taking the perspective of someone else when I'm saying that. Like an atheist, like, how do I approach these these creatures? So yeah, how do you approach this position, or this position that's not the traditional fundamentalist? I call it like picking on. Oh, I don't want to be that mean, but it's like shooting fish in a barrel or something. How long can you do that for before you like? I need to challenge myself with a new crowd.
Yeah.
But yet these people are doing it and they're getting tens of thousands of views, and it's like, okay, it took a lot of intellectual
there is a certain there's a certain ease that comes with criticizing things like the fundamentalist Christian or Mormonism or things like that, because you can critique not necessarily the philosophical ideas themselves, but just the absurdity of their notion of God.
Yeah.